Hello scholars, my name is Dr. Karis Dillon, and the goal of this channel is to make academic subjects easier to understand. In the last video, we covered the production possibilities frontier. In this video, we're going to look at supply and demand, so let's begin. What is demand? Demand is considered how much of a good or service buyers are willing to pay at different prices. Prices are meant to be determined by the wants and demands of consumers. People do not buy items that they do not want or demand. Sometimes economists will consider wants and needs to be the same thing because it's essentially a buyer's ability to pay. If a consumer can't pay for something, there is no demand. Price is considered the amount of money for one unit of a good or service. Quantity demanded is the amount of units of a good or service that buyers will pay at a certain price. If a good increases in price, usually consumers will want less of that good or service. This phenomena, prices going up and quantity demanded going down, is called the law of demand. Remember, when we look at these relationships, we are holding all other variables like time, supply, availability of labor, etc. constant. It's like a snapshot in time. No matter what, these graphs have what is called CETERIS PARABUS, which means all other things being equal. Any supplier demand curve assumes CETERIS PARABUS. A demand schedule shows what consumers are willing to pay for quantity demanded at each price. A demand curve shows the relationship between price and quantity demanded on a graph. Quantity demanded will be on the horizontal line, whereas prices will be on the vertical line. A demand curve will start higher and move down from left to right. Each one tends to look a little bit different though. Now, supply is considered the average amount of a good or service that a supplier is willing to provide at each price. In a majority of cases, when the price rises, the supplier is willing to provide more units of a good or service. Economists call the amount of units the supplier is willing to provide quantity supplied. If prices fall, the quantity supplied will also fall. The law of supply means the relationship between price and quantity supplied is positive. When prices go up, the quantity demanded by suppliers goes up. When the quantity demanded goes down, the quantity supplied goes down. All other variables would remain constant as well. A supply schedule is a table that shows the quantity supplied at each price. The supply curve is a graphic representation of the same phenomena. Almost all supply curves start in the lower left corner and increase while they move toward the right. Equilibrium is considered the meeting point between the quantity demand curve and the quantity supply curve. As long as the prices are on the vertical axis, both supply and demand curves can be put on the graph. This meeting point of demand and supply curves can help determine the best price point of a product. The equilibrium price is the only spot where consumers and suppliers agree to purchase as well as supply. This agreement of the quantity supplied and the quantity demanded is called the equilibrium quantity. Excess supply, also known as surplus, is when goods and services are placed above equilibrium prices. The quantity supplied moves above the quantity demanded. Excess demand or shortage is when goods and services are placed below equilibrium price. The quantity supplied is less than the quantity demanded. There are certain factors that can impact demand. The first factor is income. Those that earn more income seek different products than those with less income. Normal goods are defined as those whose demand will increase when income increases. An inferior good is considered a good whose demand falls when income rises. An inferior goods curve will shift to the left when income rises. Other factors that influence demand are taste and preferences, a population and its size and composition, the prices of related goods, as well as fads and expectations. As populations grow older, such as the baby boom generation, this can also change demand curves in different products. Demands for medical services and products like hearing aids move the demand curve to the right. Another example would be a family of 6 children, because this can limit and change their demands for vehicles, clothing, housing, and food. Tastes and preferences can definitely shift the demand curve to the left or to the right. As more people became vegan or others were diagnosed with celiac disease and could no longer eat gluten, this definitely changed demand and its curve. A substitute is defined as a good or service that we can use instead of a different good or service. If a good substitute comes along, it can totally decrease the demand for the original product. Complements are defined as goods that work in combination with other goods. Let's say you buy a notebook. What are the goods that complement buying a notebook? Pens, pencils, or pencil sharpeners are definitely a complement in that people often buy them together. Expectations about prices and other events can influence demand. Let's say you live in Iowa and you hear that there's a huge blizzard coming that will last 3 to 4 days. Most Iowans know that having enough food and batteries for a radio or a cell phone charger are really important. Also, keeping your gas in your car at half or full is also important because we don't want our gas to freeze. Winter accessories like gloves, mittens, hats, shovels, or snowblowers are important, so demand for these items can increase as well. There are certain factors that can shift the demand curve to the right. Let me tell you, there's a 95% chance that this question is going to be on one of your first tests in economics. Increased popularity of a product due to taste and preferences can shift a demand curve to the right. An increase in income levels can also shift a demand curve to the right because people will demand more normal goods. If the price of a substitute rises or the price of a complement product falls, these can definitely shift a demand curve to the right. And last but not least, future expectations can shift a demand curve to the right. Think Christmas shopping and you'll totally get it. So you are probably wondering what factors shift a demand curve to the left. If a product loses popularity, this can shift a demand curve to the left. If income drops, individuals will buy less normal goods, and this can shift the curve. If the prices of substitutes fall or the prices of complementary products rises, this can also shift the demand curve to the left. Future expectations for a product are discouraging. This will also shift the demand curve to the left. As an example, I saw a piece of baby equipment being recalled this morning because it had caused the death of too many infants. You can bet that demand curve is going to slide way to the left, and the company will probably have to stop its sale, rebrand the product, re-engineer it, and make it look different if they're ever going to be able to sell anything like it ever again. Well, that is the end of part 1 for our class in economics, specifically supply and demand. I'll try to get up part 2 as soon as possible, but thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe and click that like button, and I will talk with you soon. Have an amazing day.